Boys and girls, welcome to this video where we will look at 4 models and you will program 4 models in our 3D environment. They are fairly easy. It's gonna get worse and worse down the road. So buckle up and let's have a good time.
All right, inside of iGEMS, we head over to our Cam tab and 3D5X. Open up the 3D environment, and inside here, we're going to start by open our samples library, and I'm going to prepare some of these parts for cutting. So that means I'm going to add curves to them, and I'm going to add a toolpath. So you can either pause before each module or after. So let's open this first model, Align. Double click or click OK. This is going to be tricky to cut when it's located like this because we need to rotate it 90 degrees. And to do that, we go over to our Cam tab. So instead of rotate anything, we go to our Cam tab and Align. If we click on Align, we can align by a couple of different methods down here, but the default value is to select the surface. So I can select the surface which I want to be located on the table. So it's this one for this part. But we can also, of course, align by a couple of planes. Surface, as we did, we can select a curve or 3 points, box or plane normal. But that's a line. So let's use our toolpaths. Let's use the auto for this. So I click on auto, you see all of these settings. I think you should know them by now, so I won't go over them. Hit OK. And that's it, folks. We programmed this part. Of course, to cut it, we click on Create. OK, and that exports to our 2D environment, and we can process it from here. So if we want to edit this, we can click on the edge or double click it. And we will get right back into the 3D environment. So let's open a new drawing, CAD Draw.
All right, so here's our second model. We will align it so that it locates on the table, and we want to have this upper bevel. So with this model, we have to create some guidelines, because let's see if we use auto and create this. All right, in these corners, the jet will take a shortcut and cut off this Z here. Cut out this corner. So we need to separate this bevel cut from this straight cut. And we'll do that by deleting these two and go into curves and delete these. So the auto command actually creates curves and adds toolpaths, but automatically. So we have to do that manually now. And we also have to create 2 guide circles to create 2 curves on. So we go to CAD, circle, and right click for our snap point nearest. Click here, and I'll just continue by using N, short key N for nearest. Like that. And let's create another circle on the lip of this. So nearest, nearest, and nearest. Like that. So with that, we go to Cam again, add curves, we're gonna pick edges. So we'll pick this edge and this edge. Just click on them and done or enter. So we see we have these two. We can go into our toolpath, which you'll find there or there, it's the same. So you want to add a new toolpath and you do that with the plus sign. We don't have to think about these settings right now. So just add, and to the bottom left, we want to add we want to select a upper curve. So we select this curve. We have to specify a start point. Let's start here and specify an end point. So we could either click somewhere along this, and then we would cut the portion between the start point and the end point. Or we could hit enter, and that will take it all the way around. So now we can select what direction we want to cut. Let's select this direction and select lower curve. So we select this lower curve. Now we have to specify the lead in. And in our toolpaths dialog, we have set a 3mm lead in value. So there's 3 millimeters from the start point to this red circle. So if we want it to be 3 millimeters, we specify the angle and hit enter. Or if we want to have it longer or shorter, we can just click with the mouse. Let's click here, and we can, for our lead out, hit enter here. So that will create a shorter lead in and a longer lead out. Now we have some issues that I can see from the start here. Our jet is traveling on this side, or the wrong side of the toolpath. So we want the curve to be right on the inside here. That looks better. And you see these red lines, they are our connection lines, and that's the same angle as our jet will travel in. And it's dancing around a little bit, so we need to change that. So we go into our cut type rule and edit connections. And in here, we want to remove all the connections. Yes, but we cannot remove the first one. So the first one we have to change. So we go into edit. That will bring up this, the nozzle. And then we will click on point and closest. That will pick the closest point from this point to this line. So closest, like that. And then we will refresh the connection lines, like so. Close. And that looks a lot better. But there's still one issue. This probably would have worked, but you see the red lines here? They are, we calculate the cutting speed on this length. So we want to have these lines touching the table because this is still material here. So we want to have the engagement. Let's click on the blue text here and we see what engagement means. So upper to lower means from upper curve to lower curve, just like this. But we want to cut this as well, right? So we want to have upper curve to table so that we cut this as well. So let's see what happens to the red line if we hit OK. You see, it extends down to the table. So that's our first cut. Let's close this and add another curve. Let's go to the bottom and pick surfaces. We'll just select the bottom like that. that will select, you see the red dotted line? It's one outer geometry and one inner geometry. Hit done. Both are closed, as you can see. And let's go to our toolpath and add. And we want to add an upper curve, but since this is a straight cut, we only need one curve, because we're gonna cut straight anyway, so we don't have to connect it between any other lines. So click on this start point. Let's start here. Enter for all the way around. Direction here. And lower curve, we say none. Lead in, lead out. So that will automatically, if we have a flat part, bring up the C to the top of the material or the top of the model. So the engagement now needs to, since this is our upper curve, it's not really suitable for this toolpath. So we click on the engagement again, and we can see here that we want to go from the tool, as the tip of the tool, to the table. I'll cut all of this. So our tool is going to travel up here, right? And the table is down here. So let's go for OK. And that creates the red lines from the top here to the bottom, which looks really good. So there's only one left. Add here, start in the corner, this way, start position, end position, and we have the tool to table settings already. So let's hit close, and we can simulate this. All right. Let's look here. Cuts the bevel first, then cuts the straights. Like that. And like that. So that's our second part. Now, if we want to have our rapids, these blue lines, because between the cuts, the tilter or your jet will travel up here, go to the next cut, and go down. If you want to change that, you can go into our rapids command. We have a lot of different settings for our rapids. Usually, if I don't have any specific part, I just go with the distance. 20 millimeters is usually fine. That will save some time, especially if you have a lot of parts or a lot of cuts. So that's the CAD draw. The next model we're looking at is CAD Modifier. So let's open it. And we can spectate a little bit. I usually cut it situated like this on the table, so we don't need to align it to anything. But there are some tricky things with this model. First, we need to figure out how to cut this arc here. And also this hole and this hole. So let's start with those. Let's head over to Cam, Curves, and pick edges. And I'm gonna pick this hole, like that. Close. So now we have that one. And we can do a similar thing to what we did on the last model. So we just say add, select this, pick a start point, enter for all the way around, direction, and lead in, lead out. So that automatically, if we have a tool position fixed C, we automatically puts it on the top level of our model. So that's done right now. We also want to make this one and this one. So for that, I need to make some guidelines. First, I'll draw an arc, which will start on the end point. So I just hit E on my keyboard, somewhere on the contour here, and then E again. So that created an arc, goes right around here. And next thing, I want to project, select curve, this one, and this one, enter. Select surface, so I want to project them to this surface, and I want to do that in this direction, the direction of the hole. That creates an arc which we can use to project down here. So let's make curves out of this. So pick edges, select that one, that one, that one. Pick edges, that one, there and there. All right. So this one is closed, just like we want it. This thing is open. And that one we already turned into a toolpath. So let's head over to toolpath, plus select this from there to there. And lower curve, we don't have a lower curve, so we can just hit enter. So we get this thing, which will cut out this arc here. So we want to make this tangent, so it just snaps to a tangent here. Enter, and tangent here, enter. All right, so let's create this hole. So plus, select upper curve, click here, start point, right there, enter for all the way around. Select direction and lower curve. We don't have a lower curve, so enter. I want to make this inside. Now we have a cut type, which is fixed. I can click on the blue text here. So fixed means we can fix it at an angle. And we can change that angle by clicking on the pen here. And we want to have the angle of the hole, right? So there is a line in the center of the hole. If we select that, we're creating a fixed cut in this hole. Next thing we want to do is cut around all of this. And I want to add 2 new lines. So I use extend, and I want to extend this line to this surface. And this line to this surface, like that. And I also want to make a 0 fillet from here to here, so that we get a sharp corner in here. Let's also create a line from endpoint here to endpoint there. And we can go to cam again, curves, pick edges. So I want to start here. So now you will see that there's a highlighted yellow line. So that's the next suggested line. So if we hit N on our keyboard, N, 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 it will select that line. But we ran into a problem here, right? So we have to create a line, right click, endpoint here. and endpoint there. So that's our top contour done. And we will also want to pick our edges for the bottom contour. So now we want to go all the way here, so we have to create a line again. So line, endpoint, 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 and endpoint. Done. So with this curve, the bottom curve, it's still open. So I think there's a small, tiny gap here. But we have a function which we can close the curve. So if we hit close curve, we see the curve is still intact visually, and also it's closed. So we can go to toolpath, add our toolpath. So we select the top contour, start point, maybe here, and all the way around. So enter. Direction, this direction, bottom contour, right there. Lead in, lead out. So, well, there are some problems here, as we can see. So we might want to go into the connections and see where the connections are. So we only have 3 connections, 1, 2, 3. Maybe we want to add some more. So we can add from here down to there. Here and here, here and here. And hit refresh, and that will, yeah, it looks pretty good. So close that, sorry, done, and then close. And the last thing we want to do is cut this thing. So again, curves, pick edges, that edge, and edges, that edge. Toolpaths, add here, from here to here, and lower curve is this one. Start, finish. Maybe also we want to cut this thing before the last one, so we can move this up. Because this part, if we would cut this number 3 first, this part would just be loose, so it wouldn't leave a good result on this edge here. So like that. Let's simulate this and see what happens. And that's our fixed hole. And as you can see, we have a tilted piercing as well. Now it's this edge here. And last contour. Like that. Awesome. All right, so let's have a look at the polar array model. We'll open that. And this is a model where you have 6 holes rotating around a center hole. And with this part, you cannot use the auto function, unfortunately. That will only put toolpaths on the sides here. So I'll undo that. So for this model, we have to create curves and toolpaths. So let's start by adding curves. And we did pick edges before, but let's pick surfaces now. So we click on that button, and we can pick surfaces. So the one that's highlighted in a darkish blue color, we can click on that, and that will turn it yellow, indicating that it's selected, and it also outlines with a red dashed or dotted line. So we want to have this circle here, this upper circle selected, and we want to have this bottom circle right here selected. So just like that, we hit enter. We head into our toolpath dialog, and we are gonna add a toolpath. So now you see this hole has got a blue curve on top, which none other hole has. So select that. I usually start at the top here. So there's my, so I set my start point there. I click enter for all the way around. Which direction? This direction. So I click there and select the lower curve. We have a lower curve, so I select that. Now, before we set our lead in and lead out, I have to explain something. So if you have a circular movement here on this plane, or on the XY plane, which we are setting our lead in right now, if you have a circular movement, you might have a problem with crashing. So what you want to do is you want to have the circular movement on the same plane as this surface. So you can change the lead plane. On this part, it will work with automatic plane, but you can also select plane, and you can select this surface. That will turn this lead in plane to the same plane as the model. So let's just hit enter here, and you'll see it's on the exact same plane, and you won't have any crash into the material, hopefully. So close that. Now we have one toolpath. Looks really good. Really good. CAD, transform, and polar array. So we can make a polar array. We can just copy this toolpath 6 times instead of creating toolpaths 6 times. So I want to select toolpaths. I'll select the toolpath, hit enter. We want to have an axis to rotate around, so I'll select this axis, or I'll click on the hole in the center, like that. So this hole, or this toolpath, will rotate around this axis. We want to make 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 copies. We want to fill 360 degrees. And axial copies, we only want one axial copy. It's how many copies do we want to make on, well, now this axis is in the C direction, so we could have, let's say, 2 copies in this direction as well, but we only want to make 1 copy. So hit OK. And that will generate 6 identical toolpaths, which is a much faster way of making these instead of creating one for each hole. So let's head back to the toolpath dialog and look what happened here. We have one mother, which is bold and has got a blue little circle, filled circle to the right here. And we have these children here. That means if we make a change on the mother, the children will also change. I'll explain that. So this tool position, we can click on that. This is set to follow now, and that means that the nozzle will follow the curve or the toolpath wherever it goes. We can change to fixed C. That will set the tool position to a fixed C of, in this case, 75 millimeters, which is the top of the material. So I only changed the mother, and the children changed as well. So you can go into tool position again. You can set a plane if you want to. You can have a stock material. But this follow is good for now, so we select that. And lastly, let's say this hole. We don't want this hole to be exactly the same as these other holes. So we can split that. So if I hit split, that will be an individual hole. So we separated that. This is a grown-up now. So this hole just moved out from this mother's home. And he's free to do whatever he wants. So this hole won't have a fixed C. Like that, close. And stand on his own. So that's Align. Really nice feature.